25 to 34. Matthew chapter 6. It will be on the screen if you don't have a Bible. If you were unaware you were coming to church today and you was like, what should I bring with me? Should I bring a Bible? I don't know where I'm going. It's all right. We got you. It's going to be up there, and we're going to read it together. I'm going to read from the New King James Version just because that's what I like. You can read from whatever you have in your hand. It might be a little different, but the message is the same. So let's start at verse 25. Jesus speaking to his disciples. He says these words, "Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put in it, on it." Either way. "Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Now if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." Now we're going to finish the obstacle series today. We've been talking about some obstacles to your faith, the things that keep you away from God. And so we're going to finish the obstacle series today, and we're going to use this passage to do so. The title of the message is very easy. It might not make sense at first, but we'll make it make sense hopefully by the time we leave here today. The title of the message today is just Subtraction. Life minus worry. The last obstacle that we are going to discuss is going to be worry. It's an obstacle that so many of us face. So subtraction today. Let's pray. God, we ask that you would spend time with us as we get into your word, that you would speak to us, that we would hear your words, that we would hear your heart for your people. God, bless us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, I want to share with you that if you don't subtract worry from your life, worry will subtract time from your life. If you don't subtract worry from your life and you allow it to live, worry will subtract time from your life. Worry doesn't add anything to you, it only takes away. And as we close out the series, I wanted to finish with this obstacle that I thought would be best. Most of us will wrestle with worry from time to time. Maybe you don't deal with it now, but you used to deal with it. Maybe you never used to deal with it, but now you worry all the time. That's kind of the boat that I found myself in recently. We spend so much time about things in our lives, and many of the things, they don't even matter in the end. We add stress and pain. We add fear. We add hurt. We add obstacles to our everyday life because we don't pay attention to the things that we allow to come in. We don't pay attention to the things that we allow to be a part of our life. There is some times that we have to kind of put up the finger and say, hold on, you're not good for me. You need to stand back there. There's some people in your life that maybe you should take a look around and say, you know what, you're not adding anything to my life, but you're pulling everything from me. And I think it's best if I just take some time and separate myself from this relationship and I start worrying about the things of God and not worrying about the trouble that I get into running around with you. Now, I'm not saying you have those people, but I did, so I know what it's like. The things that matter, we tend to push off until one day when we need them, and they aren't there no more. We push things away and push things away and push things away, and then the day comes when we don't need them. You know, I thought about the kids when I was putting this together, and I thought about how Chastity and me, the kids are getting older now. Isaiah's 16, and Jaden is, however old Jaden is. I just told Megan I can't never remember my own kid's age. You know, he's 10, almost 10, and so, you know, by the time we're about in our mid-40s, the kids will be grown. Praise the Lord. We still got some life ahead of us after that. And so we're good to go. But they'll come into our room, especially when they were little. They used to come into our room and they would say, I'm scared, I'm this, I'm that, I don't feel good, can I lay with you? And we would always let them come in. And there was times when I was like, I just want to sleep. They can't come in here. They need to step off. They can't be in here. And Chastity would be like, they're not going to want to do this forever. And now the time has come that they don't want to do this forever. So what has she done for us, for our life, to make sure that we're not missing the void of the kids sleeping with us? She lets all 4 dogs sleep with us, which is not my favorite thing. And then she wonders why I build a barrier of pillows between me and the rest of the bed, because I need my space. Okay, that is my time, my safe place. And so I think about that, and I think if we're not pouring good into our kids right now, the day is going to come that we need them, and they're not going to be there because we were never there for them. And so we try to give them what they need. We try to pour in good things to their life. We try to be there and do even silly things. Isaiah wants us to watch videos on his Instagram every 5 seconds. Look at this video. Look at this video. And I want to say to him, if you show me one more video, I'm going to kick this phone out the window into oncoming traffic. But I don't, because it is his way of getting close and bonding with his parents. And so we watch the videos. Now, a lot of the videos I've seen, but I don't let him know that. I think that we're because I have a video watching issue. I like to watch videos. They're entertaining. And so don't amen that. So you know, we do. We're going to just slide on past that. Worry is a sneaky obstacle to your faith. It's not blatant and in your face. Fear you can anticipate. Some people might think fear is the biggest worry to your faith, the biggest obstacle to your faith, because fear is what, if you're afraid to do something, if you're afraid to serve God completely because you might lose friendships, if you're afraid to give yourself all that you are to God, if you're afraid to give your time to God, if you're afraid to give your money to God, you know, all those different things. If you're afraid to do those things, then it's going to keep you away from God. And fear is a very real problem, a very real obstacle. In fact, we started this series talking about fear, but we're going to end it talking about worry. And the reason is because worry is sneaky. Fear, for the most part, you can see coming. You can understand if something's around that might scare you, but worry sneaks up on you. You know what I'd never do? Because I have right sense, I never go to scary things. I don't go to haunted houses. I don't go to anything where somebody could jump out and scare me. In fact, I was doing something at the house yesterday, and one of the kids wasn't even trying to scare me, but said, hey, Dad, I didn't realize he was there. He almost got knocked out. I'm just saying, I don't like being scared. It's not something I enjoy. Now, there are some of you in the room, and I know for a fact that you enjoy getting scared. We need to get you to a doctor immediately so they can check out your medulla oblongata. It's a real special word I learned from the water boy. I could anticipate fear. I can anticipate what's coming. I told you guys before I used to survey, and my brother still surveys. And surveying was a great job, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more in Indiana than in Florida, because in Indiana, there's not something that wants to murder you every 5 feet. In Florida, there is. But I knew that when we were in Florida and we was going around places and I would have to walk like waist deep in swamps and stuff, or even when I was in Louisiana and Texas, and if Florida's bad, Louisiana and Texas is even worse, and you get over there and you're walking through this swamp and there's all these things that can get you and bite you and tear you up. And so I would walk delicately. I would tread lightly when I was going. In fact, we was cutting a bunch of line, which if you're not a surveyor, which I'm sure you're not, that means you're taking a patch of woods and you're cutting straight through it to get to a certain point. It has to be a straight line. You got to take your machetes, whatever, and cut through it. And so we was cutting line one time, and we had to cut a bunch of different lines at the same distance. And I was with my father-in-law and his brother, and they were in the last line, and it was getting dark out, and I was in the second to the last line. They said, when you're done, come over here and help us finish this one. I said, okay. And I went in there and I got him, and they was like, you didn't see it? And I said, what? He said, we killed a big old copperhead. We left it at the front of the trail. You didn't see it? I said, no, and I'm glad I didn't see it, because I would have screamed like a girl, and you guys would have had something to pick on me for the rest of my life. But that's okay. I could anticipate knowing that there was something that might make me afraid. There are so many similarities between the two of them, and like I said, you might think that fear is the greater, but I would tell you that they are one and the same. If you start with fear, fear will give birth to worry. If you start with worry, worry will give birth to fear. You're not going to have one and not have the other. They come together. Worry is the fact that you're already fearing something that you have no reason to fear. Amen. And so that's what worry is. Pastor Chuck Swindoll said this. He said, worry pulls tomorrow's cloud over today's sunshine. And that's what happens when we worry. We take the things from tomorrow that we can't control, that aren't even going to happen, and we start pulling them to today, and we lose today because we're so focused on the worries of tomorrow. We lose the time with our children now. You guys still have, young enough children, and we lose the time with our children now because we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. We lose the time that we have with our spouse now because we're worried about tomorrow. We lose the time that we have now, and the one thing that you can never get back in your life is time. You can never get your time back. You can make more money. You can build a new house. You can even have more children, but you can never get more time. When time is gone, it's gone. And we waste so much time, and if we don't start subtracting worry from our life, worry is going to subtract the valuable time that we will never get back. Think about all the times that you've spent worrying about something that you can't control. Worrying about how this was going to happen or how this was going to happen, worrying about things and getting yourself into a state of panic when you don't know what's going to happen, and all of a sudden you can't even leave the house because you're so afraid. And your fear started with worry. And those are the things that happen. So in many cases, worry is just fear showing up before it even has a reason to exist. While I have never worried until recently, I told you guys last week, I just started worrying more recently. I don't love it. It's not my favorite thing. I've always been good at not worrying. And now I find myself worrying about all kinds of little stuff that doesn't matter, irrelevant stuff. And Chastity's like, you need to calm down. And I'm like, you need to worry. I mean, look at this. There is a stain on the floor. We need to get this fixed ASAP. She's like, you know what? We'll clean it, and there'll be another stain on the floor tomorrow. And I'm like, we have 3 kids, sometimes 4 kids at the house. Why is there 97 cups in the sink? You know what I'm saying, Dustin? You feel that? I know you do. Because kids, I think it's against the law for children to use just 1 cup. Now I'm going to rant for a minute. I've even got cups that have their names on them. And they will use that cup, put it in the sink, and get another one. And every time I see them, I say, what was wrong with the cup? I had milk in that. I can't drink juice in that now. Rinse it out. Oh, my word. Help me, Jesus. So me and Chastity, in many ways, have swapped positions. I have become the worrier, and traditionally, she has been a professional worrier. Stephanie one time said, I don't know if you've seen the movie A Series of Unfortunate Events, but Stephanie has compared Chastity to a character in that movie. And I looked her up, and I don't know whose water this is, but I'm drinking it. And her name is Josephine Ann Whistle. It's a good name. And she's worried about everything. We were watching it one day, and Stephanie was over at the house when we lived in Orlando, and Stephanie's watching this whole scene unfold with Josephine, and she sits back and she goes, well, that's Chastity right there. And I want to give you some of Josephine's fears. She told the children when they got to the house, if you've seen the movie, maybe you'll recognize it. She told the children when they got to the house, hurry up, come in. And then she said, but don't hurry up too fast because you might trip over the welcome mat, fall, and decapitate yourself. Okay? She said, don't stand too close to the radiator because the radiator might explode and kill you. Okay. Kid went to go in the other room. She said, all right, go in the other room, but push the door or pull the door. Don't use the doorknob because I'm afraid the doorknob will explode into 1,000 pieces and fly into my eye. And then she told them her house was sitting on a cliff, and she told them, don't go doing too much stuff because the house might fall and crush you. Now, to be fair, there was a storm coming, Hurricane Herman in the movie, and to be fair, all of those things did in fact happen when Hurricane Herman got there, but that's a rare scenario. You're not going to see doorknobs breaking into 1 billion pieces. So while Chastity was never that bad, she may have gotten fairly close to the edge of that. She didn't remember one time, I think I might have told y'all this before, but I'm going to say it again in case you were absent. She didn't remember one time that she let her mom take Isaiah when Isaiah was a baby. We lived in an apartment. Our bedroom was on one side. Isaiah's bedroom was on the other side. They were like the same bedroom, just on opposite sides of the apartment. In the middle of the night, I woke up to, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I jumped up. I'm like, who's coming in? Where, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? She goes, where's Isaiah? She's in there like looking under the blankets, like throwing, where's Isaiah? He's gone. Somebody got him. Call the cops. Call the EMT. Call somebody. Call the military. I said, hold on. Your mom took him. She goes, oh, okay, let's go back to bed. I'm like, well, I'm up now. Ain't no going back to bed after that. You know? Not too long ago, I said the other day, not the other day, not too long ago, she woke up in the middle of the night, same thing. Jonathan! I'm reaching for my pistol. I'm like, who's in here? Sam's dead! She was sleeping. She woke out of a dead sleep to tell me that Sam died. The dog is Sam, if you don't know. And I said, one of the dogs, I said, what do you mean he's dead? She goes, he's dead. He's dead. He's not breathing. I know it. I get up, I go over there, I check on him. He's fine. She cuts the light on. He goes, yeah, he's cool. But she knew that he had died. Yeah. Or my personal favorite. This is probably my personal favorite worry of hers, because this is completely irrational. We lived in Texas, and on the news there was this story that there was a satellite that was the size of a school bus that was going to fall into Earth. And she started worrying so bad that this school bus was going to hit not just hit Texas, not just hit the one small corner of Texas that we lived in, but it was going to hit our apartment directly and fly through the top floor and come into our apartment and kill us all. And I said, you know what, you understand that the world is like 75% water. There's a real good chance it's not going to hit land at all. No, it's going to hit land. I said, if it does hit land, there's even a smaller chance it's going to hit the United States. And if it hits the United States, it's really probably not going to hit Texas. No, it's going to come, it's going to fall down, it's going to murder us all. I mean, she didn't get this bad, but I was waiting for her to come out the house, walk to the car like this, like just checking, just to make sure. Like Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And it's good, you know, it's fun, and I pick on her a lot, and those are funny stories. But she has gotten so much better. She doesn't worry like that anymore. And I thought Stephanie was going to be in here, so I prepared some stuff for you for her either. She can't get out easy on this thing either. Stephanie has an irrational fear of whales. She's afraid that she's going to get too close to a whale, because that happens all the time, you know. Whales just come up all the time. Or this is my favorite one that I know of that she's afraid of. She doesn't like when you're driving on the interstate, she's afraid of the big trucks. Like, it's one thing to be afraid of the truck. My mother, if you're in the car with my mother and you go next to one of them big semi-trucks, she will hold her, like the truck's going to fall over on us. It doesn't, but she's really terrified. She'll be like, go faster, get past them. And so you got to do what you got to do. But, here she is. But Stephanie's fear of the big trucks is not the truck itself. It is the lug nuts on the wheel of the truck. Because at some point she has gotten the fear that it is. At some point she has gotten the fear that the lug nut is going to come off the truck and fly through the window and kill her. She's got some Josephine in her too. Now, to be fair, I cannot put everybody else's business out there and not put my own out there. I will tell you this. I don't like frogs. And you can laugh if you want to. They are disgusting, gross creatures, okay? They are nasty. They are assassins that hide in the dark corners and wait for you to come out so they can jump on you and kill you. I don't like them. They're gross. I think the reason I don't like them is because I can remember one time being in the truck with his dad, who was not the world's slowest driver. And we were going, I think we were leaving from my grandmother's house. I don't really remember, but like a frog jumped across, I somehow got in the truck and either landed on my mom or him, and they started freaking out, and the truck was going, and I was like, what is happening? And it all started because of one of them devil frogs. Frogs are of the enemy. And I know what you're thinking, that that's stupid, but let me point your attention to the book of Revelation, if I may, chapter 16, verse 3. Then I saw 3 unclean spirits as frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon. See, they're evil. They are evil creatures, and my dislike of them, you can call it a fear if you want to be a jerk about it, but my dislike of them is biblically rooted, okay? It's rational. That's right. That's right. I just don't think we need to support such evil beings. We have things we all worry about. There has always been minor worries that we can laugh at. I have eaten frog legs, and I respect myself less because of it. There are always things that we can find to worry about. And it's fun to come in and to talk about those things that are funny and those things that may never happen and probably will never. A satellite is probably never going to fall on you. But I guess it is theoretically possible that it could happen. And it's funny to think about certain things and laugh at certain things. And I'm by no means trying to make fun at a serious situation. There are some people who worry so much that they cannot function. There are some people that have such deep worries that are so severe that they won't leave the house. They don't have no friends and family. They can't talk to nobody. They are completely alone. Sometimes the worry people face is nothing to laugh at all. I'm not saying that there's not an issue when it comes to worry. In fact, my point today is that worry is a very real issue that we all have to face at times. I have worries I wrestle with every day. I worry about my children. I worry about my family. I worry about this church, and I worry about your family. So when it comes to the end of the day, I don't just sit there with my own worries. I try to worry about everybody. I try to worry if I've upset anybody or offended anybody, which I've found out in the 3 years that we've had this church running is really easy for me to do. I can offend people real easy. And I don't mean to, so if I do, you know what you should do? The Bible says that you should just go to somebody and tell them and let's work it out together. So if that happens, just come and let me know. We'll sit down, we'll talk about it, and it'll be what it is. But I worry about this. I worry about people. I worry about you guys. I worry about society. I worry about all the things that are going on in this world. I find myself every day walking around a valley of worry. And it's a dark valley that I walk in alone a lot of times. And it's a deep valley. And when I get into the bottom of the valley of worry and I look up, it's so hard to see out of because everything I see just points me to something else to worry about. And it's the life that I live every day, that I have chosen to live. And the only way I get through my days of all this worry is to find my peace in God's word and to pray and to ask God to show me what it is that He has for me, what it is that He wants me to do, and not be so concerned with worrying all the time. But I do. I worry a lot. I'm lonely because people don't know that I am trapped in a valley of worry. And they don't know because I don't tell people. And if we're being honest in this room, I guarantee you there is at least 1 or 2 more people that could say, that's me. I'm trapped in the valley of worry. And now my goal is not just to leave us here, not just to point out the fact that we're trapped in a valley of worry. My goal is to say as long as I can, as long as you will let me, I will walk through the valley with you. I'm already there. So let's join together. Let's love God. Let's serve God. And let's walk through this valley of worry together. That's what we need to do. That's what helps us. I can give other people faith and struggle and worry. It's hard. And it's not like God's intentions for us is to be trapped. But a lot of times we're trapped. And we don't know how we got there, but we're there. And now we have to figure out how to get out of this valley. Now we have to figure out how to stop worrying and stop doing all the things that we're doing. We're trapped by fear. We're trapped by hurt. We're trapped by rejection. We're trapped by doubt. All things that we've discussed in this series. These are the things that trap us and keep us away from God. Peter teaches us in 1 Peter 5:7 that the plan of escape when worry sets in He shows us that God's plan is to cast all of our cares on Him because He cares for us. God can do in us what we cannot do without Him. God is able to show us new things. He is able to bring us new things. He is able to eliminate certain worries from our life. And we cannot do it alone, but yet we try every day. I got it, God. Somebody calls and says, hey, you want to go to church in the morning? Why would I go to church? You see, my life is falling apart. And all of a sudden, you're going to come and ask me to go to church. If God cared enough about me, my life wouldn't be falling apart. I'm not going to no church to serve no God that doesn't care enough about me. You got to put the effort in. You got to put the effort in. God can do for us what we can't do without Him. He doesn't just want some of our cares. He wants all of them. Cast all your cares on God because He cares for you. The cares that hold you back, the cares that stop you short right in front of your breakthrough. I'm right in front of my breakthrough, but I'm so worried about what's going to happen that I can't push on one more day. And you stop short because of worry, because of fear. The cares that you can't overcome, God has already called you to give them to Him. He has called you to overcome them, not in your power, but in His power. Cast all of them on Him. He can take it. He's already paid for it. It is not wrong. If you don't hear nothing else, you should hear this. So if you're dozing or you're shopping or you're playing games, just listen real quick and then you can go back to what you're doing. It is not wrong to bring your cares to God. In fact, it's required. You bring your cares to God because it is required of you. It is required of you. The famous writer from the early 1900s, Dale Carnegie, wrote these words. Our fatigue is often caused not by work, but by worry and frustration and resentment. You get so tired in your life, not because you're working so hard, not because of what you're doing. You get tired in life because you can't get past the worry. You can't get past the pain. You can't get past the fear that holds you back from God. And that is the obstacles that we need to discuss today. The fear that holds us back. Worry slowly infects us. And once we're infected, it's hard to cure. We justify worry. I just can't ignore the problem. Something has to be done here. God wants me to use common sense in this matter. And these are all very true statements. But the bottom line is, we have to make sure that we're following God. We have to make sure that we're giving everything we are to Him. That's what the Apostle Paul found out. And then he tried to teach the Philippians in Philippians chapter 4. Verse 6 and 7, he starts off like this. Be anxious. Yes. A verse I can follow. But it doesn't stop there. Like we're like, yeah, I like this verse. You're reading Philippians 4, you're like, be anxious. Finally. Thank you, Jesus. I was getting worried I wasn't going to be able to follow none of these passages, but this one, be anxious. But it keeps going. Be anxious for nothing. Oh, you blew it. You blew it. But in everything, by prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, letting your requests be made known to God. That's good enough by itself, but he kept going. He said, and the peace of God will surpass all your understanding, and it will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. He is telling you to give everything you are to Him. And then the peace of God, the peace of man is what causes worry. Because our peace cannot be perfect in itself. Our peace cannot be whole in itself. But the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, then it will be given to you. And He will take care of the problems. He will guard your hearts. He will guide your minds through Christ Jesus. The Bible doesn't teach how to avoid the obstacle of worry. It teaches you what to do when you're faced with it. Because you will be faced with the obstacle of worry. And what you're supposed to do is subtract worry from your life. That the worry that we face is not doing anything to help us. But our life is constantly in danger because of worry. Worry leads to stress. Stress leads to heart problems. It leads to diet problems. You get so worried and you're like, you know what makes me not worried? This box of Twinkies. Come on. You know what I mean? I'm telling you right now, I've been there myself. You see, like this is a brand new shirt because all my clothes have shrunk. Every piece of them have shrunk. Yep. So pray for my dryer because it's shrinking all my clothes. Just mine. It's just shrinking mine, but they're shrinking. You know? We got to give it to the one who actually paid for it, the one who can actually handle it, and let him give us his peace. Let him give us the peace. Now we see Jesus in the middle of what may be his most famous sermon. In Matthew chapter 6, it starts in chapter 5. It's the Sermon on the Mount. It's Jesus' most famous sermon. It's his first sermon preached in his ministry. He had lived 30 years on this earth. He'd gone through the temptations in the desert. He'd done all these things, and this became his first sermon. And it's interesting that Jesus chose to deliver this message now. Before this point, when you get into verse 5, he's talked about the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes are blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are all these different things that are blessed. Now I want to point out to you, between Malachi and Matthew, Malachi is the last book of the Old Testament. Malachi is the last book of the Old Testament. Matthew is the first book of the New Testament. The last word of the last book, the last word that God spoke through the prophet Malachi was the word cursed. You will be cursed. He talks about bringing everything back, and if we don't bring everything back to God, then the people will be cursed. The last word is cursed. From there was a 400 plus time period, 400 years, that God didn't speak through no prophets. God didn't do no miracles because the people were closed off to that. Why aren't we seeing people come up to this front of this church and raise their hand and say, I need to give myself to Jesus? Why aren't we seeing sick people who can't walk get up on their legs? Why aren't we seeing people who can't breathe start breathing again? Because the people are not looking for the miracles of God no more. And we're not looking for the miracles of God no more because we've lost the presence of God. Every Sunday we go in that room and we pray. And every Sunday I ask that God would send his presence. Because without his presence you can't have no peace. Without his presence you can't have no miracles. Without his presence we have nothing. 400 years. And then Jesus preaches his first sermon. And the first word of his first sermon is blessed. Because when you give yourself back to God, like the people are doing here, you give yourself back. Jesus started a revolution. And when you give yourself back to God, the curse that was in your past is gone, and God calls you blessed. God says you are blessed. Blessed in your worry, blessed in your fear. We have to overcome it, give it to God, and God calls you blessed. He's talked about lust and adultery and divorce. He's talked about love for your enemies. He's instructed them in prayer. After this topic, he goes into things like the encouragement of prayer. He talks about the golden rule. You should do to others what you want done to you. He talks about false profession of faith. Now, I'm not saying that there's some people in here that might live a false profession of faith. That's not my business. That's between you and God. But what he says in Matthew chapter 7 is not everybody who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. They say, but Lord, didn't we do miracles in your name? Didn't we preach sermons? Didn't we prophesy in your name? So these people were people who knew God, who knew how to preach the gospel, who knew how to do miracles, and they still were not given access to the kingdom of God. If you're sitting in the room, if you're sitting in your life and you say, I know this God, make sure you're not living a false profession, because a false profession will get us nowhere. We have to know that we live this thing. These are the topics, and these topics are enough to preach an entire year or more worth of sermons. It makes sense now, I get it, because in the middle of life's uncertainty, that is when worry becomes the strongest. In the middle of the blessings, when the blessings are on one side and the false practices are on the other side, and you're torn in the middle of what's good and what's wrong, and you don't know where to go, it's in the middle that worry becomes the strongest. That's where so much pain sets in. And so we're going to get finished here in just a couple minutes, but the math of God is different than the math of man. It's not a bunch of numbers, but subtraction is what's killing your faith. Or addition is what's killing your faith. Subtraction is what helps you. You need to subtract the relationships you don't need. You need to subtract the fears you can't overcome. You need to subtract the depression that holds you back. It's time to get in God's classroom. This here today is God's classroom, and I want to instruct the class on God's mathematics, which is funny because I am very bad at math. I am possibly the worst math doer. I don't even want to use the word mathematician because that would just be a blatant lie, but I am so bad at math. I think my teachers passed me just to not have to teach me no more. They was like, he can go. He can go. I want to talk to you about how God can subtract the worry from your life and add new life to your worship. The first thing that God does is, the first thing we need to look at is effort. Effort. Verse 26 and 27 says, look at the birds of the air. Look at the birds of the air. This is a statement that we can do today. We can go outside and we can see birds. It's great that we can go outside and see the same thing that Jesus told his disciples. Now, what we have is Jesus preaching to the multitudes. Jesus comes inside, he's teaching his disciples. And that is what we're discussing today. We are learning how to be true disciples of Jesus. And one of the key points of being a disciple of Jesus is eliminating the doubts, eliminating the worry, eliminating the fear. That is how we focus on who he is. And he's sitting with his disciples, and he says, look at the birds of the air. We see birds every day. Isn't it great that God gives us examples that are timeless? That now when you worry and you're outside and you're worrying about how you're going to do this, and all of a sudden a bird flies in front of you, or you look over and you see some birds sitting there, and now all of a sudden in your mind, I want God's word to pop into your heart and say, look at the birds of the air. Look at the birds that are out here, flying around, playful, living day by day, just going here and there, just running around. Solomon shows in Ecclesiastes 9:12 that we are like a bird caught in the snare. Snare is a trap. He continues in verse 14 and talks about a small city who's snared by a powerful king. And these snares that the enemy sets for us are what we hear in 1 Peter 5:8 when he says the devil walks around like a roaring lion looking for somebody to devour. The snares are set all over your life. You know, when that guy you've been eyeing walks by and goes, hey girl, what's up? When that lady at your office has been flirting with you and trying to get you to come out with her, and you know your wife and kids are at home. Oh yeah, I know y'all don't know what that's like, but I bet you there's been some people who know what it's like to be pulled in one direction, who know what it's like to be pulled in a direction that's not the direction God is trying to lead you in. And the snares are set all over. And we're trying to follow this straight path. We're trying to go on this road with God. And all of a sudden they're snares. And Solomon says we are snared like the bird in the snare of a fowler. The traps are set. He's just waiting for us to get caught. So what makes us so different than the birds of the air? In many cases, it's effort. The birds stay active in their effort. They don't just sit there with their mouth open. They don't just sit there waiting for somebody to take care of them. They don't just sit there and hope everything's going to be okay. They are active in their effort. And so when we get down and we start to worry, we have to be active in our effort. We have to actively try to get past this worry. We have to actively seek God, actively read the Bible, actively talk to friends, actively be in church so we can share the burden with each other. We have to be active in our effort like the birds are. I think it's funny that so many people, which I don't mean to get into a political discussion, and I'm not going to, but I'm going to give you my statement, and then if you want to talk later, we can. But I think it's funny that so many people buy into the politics and the discussions about free everything. I'm going to give you free health care. I'm going to give you free college. That's Bernie Sanders' big ploy, is to give everybody free something. Let me give you an economical fact. It's not possible. Oh, look at Venezuela. Look at Venezuela. Our taxes right now are 6% sales tax. If you want to get free everything, those sales taxes go up to 27 to 30% sales taxes. It's not free. You're paying. You're paying in some way. But there are so many people who are not active, and they buy into all these arguments, all these things that people are saying. But the good news is this: our payment has already been given. So when God says to come to him and we have a free gift, it is legitimately a free gift. He's not going to raise any tax. He's not going to do anything else. He is legitimately giving you a free gift. How do you know it's free? Because way back there on the cross, he got put up there so we could live down here. He got killed so that we could live. He died so that we can have peace. That's how I know it's free. The penalty has already been paid for. Not just so we can sit back and collect free stuff, but so that we can be active in the abundant life that Jesus died for. David said in Psalm 124, "My soul has been set free like a bird from the snare of the fowler." Your soul is waiting to be set free. God is crying out to you, saying, leave the nonsense alone. Leave the worries alone. Just come to me and I will give you freedom. But it continues because Jesus tells the disciples, he asked the disciples, who can add 1 cubit to their stature? A cubit is a measurement, stature. Who can add 1 cubit? And when you read that, you might think, why is worrying going to make me taller? It's not going to make me any shorter or taller if I worry. The word statue in Greek is helikia. It means age of one's life. What he's saying is, who can make their life longer by worrying? Who can make their life happier by worrying? The answer is you can't. The answer is that worry subtracts from your life. So we need to subtract worry from our lives so that we can move on. The second thing that we want to look at is equip. God equips us. Verse 30, he says, look at the grass. If he clothes the grass of the field today, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? If God equips the grass, wouldn't he equip us even more? We are all every day equipped with what we need. The fact that you're breathing today says that God still has a plan for you. The fact that you got up this morning and you can be active and you can move. Even if moving is difficult for you, you were still up this morning and you got ready and you came to church. And maybe you had to deal with kids. I had to deal with kids. And you would think that as your kids get older, that it gets easier. They just get more lazy. I'm like Isaiah, Elijah, Jaden. And we had Corbin last night. Corbin, get ready for church. I'm up. No, I didn't say wake up. I said get up. I'm up. You're still laying in bed under a blanket. And then Isaiah does this thing where he gets dressed and then he lays back in bed. I'm like, bro, you're going to look like a wrinkled mess. Get up. I'm up. You're not up. We're all given air to breathe. We're all given blood that flows and intelligence to function and food to eat. God has given us everything we need to get by in this life, and we don't even acknowledge it. Instead, humanity says, we did this. It was evolution. It was all an accident. We accidentally got here. We did it ourselves. Nothing increases our ability to worry faster than when we ignore God's ability to provide. When you ignore God's ability to provide, you forget that He's already equipped you. He's already equipped us and we don't see it. We walk around blinded to God and we think that He's blinded to us. He's not. He's there. He sees you. In the middle of the sermon, without people saying a word, He says, "Oh, you of little faith." God sees our struggle and points it out. When you're worrying, God would whisper in your ear, "Oh, you of little faith." Same thing He told Peter when Peter started to sink. Same thing He told the disciples when they were worried about dying on the boat. Jesus got up and said, "Peace, be still." And the whole storm went away. I was sitting one time. We lived in Marion. We had just moved from Florida to Marion. And these Indiana storms Way different than Florida storms. Okay, because Florida storms have a lot of lightning, but they last maybe 30 minutes, like the real hard part, maybe an hour or two. You know, if it rains all day, it'll rain all day, but there won't be a storm. It'll just be like a rain. The real hard storms just last for a little while, and then they go away. And so I'm laying in bed one night, and this Indiana storm came through. And the Indiana storms ain't no joke, because them bad boys are loud and angry, and it sounded like the wind was going to rip our house apart. And we lived in a little bitty house, and I thought I was going to look out the window, and I was going to see the Wicked Witch riding her bicycle across. I was like, oh, no. This is exactly what happened in The Wizard of Oz. And I began to sit there, and I was worried so much about what was going to happen. We had the small children, and I was worried about something happening to the house and the roof, falling on them. I was getting full Josephine on this thing. Then I started to pray, and the wind was whipping. I mean, it sounded like the screen was about to rip off and our window was going to fly out, and I started to pray. And the more the storm got angrier, the more I prayed. And I probably prayed for 5 minutes, 10 minutes is what it felt like, because I couldn't sleep. I was so worried about what was going to happen. And as I prayed, the wind died down. And I was like, okay, it's over. And I stopped praying. Then the wind kicked back up. And I was like, that's not cool. I started praying again. And I prayed until the storm was not even blowing hardly at all no more. And I was able to go to sleep. God gives us the ability to go to Him and pray, to go to Him and to share our cares with Him, to go to Him and to speak these things to Him. And then when we don't, He says, you have little faith. I prayed knowing that God would quiet that storm for me. Little faith is a big problem. Little faith is a big obstacle. Little faith is what separated us from a big God. The third thing that we got to look at, there's two more. Ready? Third thing, 3 and 4, and then we're out of here. That's what I say to get you OCD people back paying attention again. Jesus said, instead of going to Him, we follow the ways of the Gentiles. In verse 32, He says, the Gentiles seek these things. You're looking at all these things that the Gentiles seek. Gentiles are people in the Bible who were considered sinners. They had no relationship with God. And what He's saying to them is that you are chasing after the same thing that the ungodly are chasing after. Why do we try to see God's provisions without God's presence? You don't get one without the other. Instead of the church being example to the world, we are being led by the world. We are following what they say. We are doing what they say. We are going where they lead. We're supposed to be leading this world, and we're letting the world lead us. God is bigger than this. He's bigger than our fear, bigger than our worry. When we stopped following God in our worries and started looking to society for our needs. And I remembered a church, this church out in the country, small little church, had a sign out front, and the sign said, don't let worry kill you. Let the church help. I thought that was funnier than y'all did. Don't let the worry kill you. Let the church help. And the problem is, that's what we do. But we don't let the church help the way they intended that sign to read. Let the church help kill you. No, let the church help uplift you. Amen. Let the church help be there for you. Let the church help share your burden. That's how we overcome worry. We have to be an example for other people. When everything's going crazy and we don't know where to go and what's up and what's down and what we're doing, we have to be an example for other people. That when they look at us and they say, how can you function with all this chaos going on in your life? You point to one thing, my relationship with God. I know it sounds funny. I've told people, if you don't understand, if you don't go to church, if you're not a God person, that it'll sound funny to you, but everything I do by faith in my relationship with God. And some people laugh, but as a general rule, most people want to hear more about it. They might not believe like you believe, they might not do what you do, but they want to hear. Because I believe that the world out there is hungry for something. They're hungry for God. They want to see a move of God. But we're never going to show them the true God if we're following around the false gods of this world. People will miss the true God because they're too busy looking at all these other things. The church should be an example of love, of respect, of friendliness, of care. We should be an example, but we get caught up in our own issues and we forget about the people that are next to us. We want to be a church who lives life together. That's what I want this church to be. I want you to go, listen, I can't make people do anything. But I want you to go talk to every person in here. And I want you to know every person in here. I'm going to give you a couple ways that this is beneficial. I know things because I'm the pastor of the church. So I know that Mackenzie's dad had hurt his hand. And I know that he's in pain. And if you guys don't know Mackenzie, you should come talk to her. It's her dad. And maybe you go up to Mackenzie and you're like, hey, Mackenzie, I'm Christina. How you doing? And then Mackenzie says, I'm doing good. Hey, could you help me pray for my dad? Oh, yeah, what's wrong? If we're not talking to each other and living life with each other, then we're not, I want to encourage you to be there for each other. Because this is the way now you all know. So now, whether you come here for prayer tomorrow or not, or you're just at home in your own personal prayer time and you're praying for things, remember, her dad's name is Michael. Remember to pray for Michael, that God would heal him and help him recover quickly. Or remember Jerry. Jerry just lost a loved one. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this about them, so if I'm not, then I'm going to be in trouble later. But like I said before, I'm good at offending people. Jerry lost his grandmother. It's a tough loss for him. We were talking about it this morning. He was texting me yesterday, or Friday, whatever day. Jerry just needs somebody to help him. And my response is the same. I'm here if anything, if you need anything, I'm here for you. But look around. If Jerry's lost his grandmother, and Mackenzie's dad is having issues, and Christina needs some help, and Angie needs some help, and Dustin needs somebody to talk to, and George is going through chaos, I'm one person. I can't be there for everybody. And the way we overcome this is by being an example for each other and standing up and living life together. We don't just come to church to sit here and to see me run around and sweat and holler. If that's what we're here for, then let's close the door and go somewhere else. We are here to be a family and to be an example and to love God personally and to love God together. That is what the church is for. Know these people. There might be people over there that have never met any of y'all over there because you sit on that side every week, they sit on this side every week, you've never met. That's a shame. That's our own failures, and it's my failure as the leader that we're not doing better. Be an example. The last thing, and we're done. The last thing is that God, we have to entrust. We have to entrust everything we are to God. He said, seek first the kingdom of God, like Pastor Josh said, and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. You are not going to change tomorrow by worrying about it. You know what changes tomorrow? You know what changes the overdue electric bill of tomorrow? You know what changes the hurt that you're going to face tomorrow? Being active in your faith today changes your worry for tomorrow. Amen. We don't just come here so that we can say hi, bye, and leave. I hope that when we come in this room together, whether it's me or Pastor Josh or Pastor Chastity or Pastor Stephanie or Pastor whoever or a guest speaker or whatever, I hope that we take something of encouragement and we leave more equipped for the world that we're going to face that week. And how do you do that? You do that by entrusting everything you are to God. The fastest way to subtract worry from your life is to add God to your life. To entrust God with everything, your family, your job, your health, your money, your life. When we give everything to God, the Bible says that He will give everything to us. Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. Not just one. See, he didn't give you an easy pass. Seek first the kingdom of God. Well, I can say I'm seeking first the kingdom of God just by showing up to church. I'm seeking first the kingdom. Sunday's the first day of the week. I start my Sunday by seeking first the kingdom of God. I'm here, ain't I? And his righteousness. It doesn't mean just to be in the church. It doesn't mean just to be around God. It means to let the church, let God be in you. That's what it means. You don't get a pass just because you're here. And if that's what you're hoping for, let me break your hopes right now. If it's all said and done and you leave here, and God forbid something happens and you get into a car accident or something happens and you think that just coming to church is buying your ticket to heaven, I regret to inform you that's not the way it works. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is your ticket. Jesus is the ticket that we punch to get to heaven. Jesus is our King. Jesus is everything that we need. We forget about the righteousness part of the passage. I'll be cool to show up in church, but I'm not changing the first thing about my life. We were talking this morning, and somebody told me about another pastor. A big name, worldwide renowned pastor, big, huge, giant church. Well, he's got thousands and thousands of people at his church. Good for him, first of all. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's reaching people. I'm happy that somebody are hearing something. It's better than hearing nothing. But the problem is the biggest churches are the churches that give half of the message. The big church that was talked about is a church that discusses the kingdom of God, but doesn't talk about the righteousness of God. Doesn't talk about the way that we change our life to fit God, not change God to fit us. And that's what we do. As society, we have changed God to fit our life instead of changing our lives to fit God. Add the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Don't forget the second part. It's time to entrust our lives to Jesus, because after all, he's already bought them. And we're trying to control something that's not ours to control. To entrust is to commit something into the trust of someone else. If I were to die, and Chastity were to die, it's a very encouraging part of the ending of the message, isn't it? If we were to die, our children would be entrusted to somebody else. Because I'm entrusting that person that I know that they're going to do what's best for my children. And when I entrust my life to God, I'm saying, I trust that you know better than I know. You know how to do this thing correctly. You know what's best for me. And I'm giving everything to you. God added our penalty to Jesus' life so he could subtract pain from our life. The pain of worry, the pain of obstacles. Let's pray. God, I pray that as we join together today, I pray that as we finish this service and this series of obstacles, that somewhere along the ways you have spoken to our hearts. And we have seen that there are some things that we need to walk away from. We need to change. We need to overcome. Doubt, fear, depression, hurt, rejection, anger, resentment, unforgiveness. These are all things that keep us away from you. But nothing keeps us further away from you than not accepting who you are and what you did. Not accepting the gift of God, which is eternal life, that is found only in Jesus. Pray that you would continue to speak to our hearts.